What's up, everybody? My name is Tiffany Hillcook. I run a spiritual practice called The Healing Hill, and my channel is all about love, resources, and helping people step into their light or discover their life's purpose. Today's episode in particular is a vignette or a short story of the day that I met God, the day that He manifested Himself to me. Hang tight, I'll see you soon. All right, welcome back. So I did not grow up in a religious household. We said grace or prayer, if you will, like at Thanksgiving, maybe at Christmas or Easter. But outside of that, we didn't attend church or religion in particular, let alone, God is separate from religion. I just want to be really clear on that. Religion is man's application of God. And so I just didn't grow up in a spiritual household. It was very, just an emotional deficit a lot of the time, and quite authoritarian is the best way to describe it. Kids were to be seen and not heard. It wasn't until 2020 when I had my awakening that I realized I didn't have to be a compliant daughter in order to live. And not only did I not need to be a compliant daughter, it was like imperative that I was no longer compliant. So I used to think that people who believed in God were fucking idiots. I thought that they were getting the wool pulled over their eyes. And not only so much that, I struggled even for people to inject God into my life. And I would say it would be more religion into my life. For example, if somebody were to say to me, "Have a blessed day," oh my God, that used to send me into a tailspin. It was like, how dare you tell me to have a blessed day? I'm in a different place in my life today, and somebody could say, the most obscure thing to me, and I have the ability now to allow that energy to just pass through me. So it was 2020, so that's just a little bit of background for me. Fast forward to 2020, I am now, I think I'm 35 years old, and I had found myself in a relatively dark place. It was post-COVID, but very fresh post-COVID. It was March or April of 2020, and prior to that, my goodness, my body was telling me daily that something was wrong. I had by the way, the snoring. We've got a potato in the building. I'm sure Pepper will join us in a little bit, my cat. So it was 2020, post-COVID, but early COVID. So I'm working from home, and it is like March or April. And well, it would have been April. And the company I worked for was very controlling. We had many internal meetings a day. And I worked in sales, so the goal was to meet with companies, right? And it would not be unusual to have way more internal meetings than I would have external meetings in a day. They wanted to know what I was doing, where there was just so much control. And here's the thing, I gave them the power. I gave them willingly this power. And so my soul knew the truth, but my mind and body were not in alignment with my soul. And so I kept pushing myself towards something, towards the job title, towards the maybe bigger, better car, again, material items. It's the human items, spirit is not material. And I was having all these, physical ailments would manifest. I remember going to internists, like specialists that for the, the stomach, the digestive and elimination system. I had developed internal hemorrhoids at one point in time. Sometimes when I would just eat food, it would just it would just go straight through me. My body was under severe stress. I was drinking every single day. I had a prescription for Adderall that I abused. I would start my day with Adderall and uppers, coffee, midday, depending on the client that I had. We may have some alcohol, some wine or cocktails at lunch. And sometimes my drinking would continue from there. Or other times it would start at the end of the day, go to happy hour, I would go home, continue to drink, switch to cannabis, pass out, and do it all over again. And I did that for many, many years. And so in April of 2020, the final tipping point, so I'm starting to have awareness that something is out of alignment. Oh, back up a little. Probably in, let's say 2017, I started to see a counselor. And what had prompted that was, again, my relationship sucked. I had conflict. I felt alone. Something was out of alignment, out of order. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I had hope. And to have hope is the soul. So I knew that there had to be a better way, a different way to live. So I started to see a counselor. And that allowed me to start to get to the root of my anxiety. And I had isolated it to two main causes, my mother and my job. And an example, my relationship was so codependent with my mother. We talked every day, if not multiple times a day. And I started to realize my body would get super amped up when I would talk on the phone with her. And in speaking with my counselor, there was one day that I actually decided to address it with my mother. And mind you, my mother has a master's degree. She is a social worker. I don't even know what her I think it's clinical psychology. I'm not quite sure what her master's degree is in. But needless to say, I had given her a lot of values based off of the job title. For example, compassionate, empathetic, nurturing. And in reality, my mother is none of those things. So I remember the day that I had even shared with her, Mother, I need to share with you, you are causing, I don't know if I said causing, because really nobody can cause you to feel any kind of way. You decide to let them. But I didn't know that at that time. And I said, when I have anxiety is when I'm talking with you. And it was almost like a light switch. Like if you've ever pissed off a narcissist, it's like you can see a switch happen. And she got really short and said, I do not take that. I do not own that. That is impossible for me to do. And at that time, it was like the most courageous thing I could have ever fucking done, to stand up to this person who I had, given so much power to, and she really dictated my life. The job that I got, what I did was to make her proud. And image is everything for my mother. And it really shocked me. It surprised me that was her response. And so the job was the other one. And so it was April of 2020, and I remember sitting in meetings, and my director at the time, we would have this meeting at the beginning of the day. And when you work in sales, I don't know how other companies work, but the one that I worked at, we would look at what kind of business could close and how could we get it to close. And the way that this director was talking to people, about people, we had individuals that we hired in let's say February. And now it's COVID, and these people are teaching themselves how to do this job remotely. And my director was abusive verbally to these people around, just so dismissive. And how come you didn't get that information? And how could you have possibly missed that? And I'm thinking, the fact that they even are cold calling people as recruiters and even having any type of dialogue with very minimal amount of in-person training, I thought was great job. Let's capitalize on what has been created. And these individuals, I could just see them shrinking on the screen. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody's face, from an embarrassment perspective, just turn bright red. That's what was happening. And mind you, that happened the whole time that I was at this place, 8 years, but it was the first time that I was able to see the dysfunction that was actually transpiring. And so, fast forward, I ended up resigning from this company. I challenged a manager on a decision, and it was really not that big of a deal, but I was suspended immediately. It was we've got a rogue one here. It's like a cult, right? We've got a rogue one. We need to isolate her. We need to pull her away from everyone else and suppress. My job was always being threatened. The resources that it took to do my job were always being threatened to be taken away from me, and that was their power. Fall in line or else. And so after I challenged the manager and I was suspended, I resigned 2 days later. And that very evening is when I met God. Now, I will say, God is never not with us. He is always with us. I just didn't know that. And so I had resigned from that job, and me being the workaholic that I was, the same day that I resigned, I didn't even give myself a moment to breathe, and I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do next. And it wasn't because financially I needed it. I did really well financially. I ended up not working for the next 2 years after I had left that job because of savings that I had, and which was a blessing because my whole world ended up imploding, and it took 2 years, and there's still pieces of myself that I'm healing to essentially recalibrate how life works for me. What are my core values? What are the agreements that I want to abide by versus the ones that my parents gave me and then society gave me? And I just said, okay, those are mine. And I know that I planned, but in my pre-birth planning, I know that this is exactly what was supposed to happen. So it's Thursday. I've resigned. I'm already thinking, what can I do? What can I do? Well, already what had started to happen was some veils were lifting, and I knew that there was some information was, if I do what I love, everything else will take care of itself. If I honor what's in my heart, all the other pieces that go into this existence as a human, whether it be the financial components, whether it be relationships, whether it be partnerships to do the work that the dream that you have, all of that will work for you. But you have to surrender to controlling everything and also, it's surrender to what it is that you want to do. But the other piece is that for me in particular, that sounds really great consciously. I didn't know how to integrate that information. And the best way to put it would be like this. You know that you're important, yet your mind and your actions might tell yourself something different. And so knowing something and embodying it are two different things. So that evening, Thursday, I believe it was April 28th, 2020, I'll never forget it. I'm thinking about what can I do and what can I do and what can I do? You know, again, mind is active, mind is racing. I am the thoughts. I am no longer the observer of the thoughts. I am the thoughts. And I think to myself, well, if I do what I love, what do I love? What do I love? And I remember looking around, and all I saw in my house were plants. And I was like, fuck, dude, I love plants. I love plants. I could do something with plants. What could I do with plants? And what could I do with plants? And I'm staring at this pussy willow tree that I have. And then almost from like the top of it to the bottom of it, all of these leaves started to shimmer. And became gold. And I remember going to this tree and just almost rubbing the leaves, like, what the fuck is going on? And I knew in that very, very moment that God was real. And I knew that that was the soul of God that was speaking to me. And fuck, the rest of that year, even till today, so many magical things happen on a daily basis. And when I meet individuals that have faith and have always had faith, I just, another part of my purpose is I love hearing someone's story. And so when I meet someone that's spiritual, that tells me they've always had a relationship with God, I just get so curious. Tell me about it. How did you know? And I just connected with a lady the other day, and she's like, I just never lost that connection, even from a child. I just always knew that I wasn't alone and that God was real, which is just so beautiful because I had so much pain in my life for so long that had I known that this entity, that this energy existed, it would have eliminated such unnecessary suffering for me. But I know that that was part of my story. And so I share that because I just want you to know that you are loved unconditionally. And that whether you remember or realize it, you're always supported. And in this moment, some information that's being shared with me is like, if you want to foster more of a relationship with God, ask for a sign. Ask for something. And then be aware. Because too often we ask and then we aren't there we don't have the mindfulness to observe it when it is being presented to us. Or the other thing that happens is we explain it away. We gaslight ourselves. And I'll tell you this, life doesn't make logical sense. Life is not logical. It's like you hear sometimes people that it's like right place, right time. I met this person, this chance encounter. We all have those opportunities. But maybe you're walking and you're looking at your phone and you didn't even fucking look up your eyes to see this opportunity, this destiny moment presenting itself. And so I have such gratitude for that experience. It changed my life completely. And that's the day that I met God and God manifested himself to me. If you are struggling personally with anxiety, worry, maybe your relationships are in shambles, maybe you're starting to reach towards habits that don't benefit you, drinking too much, binging food, not eating enough. Some people, it's porn. They just, again, you get to decide what isn't working for you. Porn is not inherently bad. But if it's all that you're thinking about 24 hours a day, that's a little bit different. I want you to know that I would love to work with you. I now run a spiritual practice, and being that I am an intuitive teacher, depending on who you are, your spirit team will come through. I will call forward your higher self as well. And we will figure out how to, clear some of those clouds, get you centered back into that mind, body, soul trilogy of balance. Because I will tell you, hell is real, but it's here. It's here on earth. That is where hell is, or heaven. We get to decide. So I love you so very much. Thank you for joining me and sharing your energy with me. I'll see you again soon.